Go by Dexter Gordon is as energetic and funky as jazz gets. It's straight up hard bop with incredible saxophone work. The first track, Cheesecake, is a cut above the rest, but the whole thing is such a vibe and will have your head moving the entire time. This isn't Dexter's best work, but it was his first truly great album and I like it a lot. It's just technically impressive and also really fun. Pretty much exactly what you want in a hard bop album. It's Time by Max Roach is a bit of a weird one. It has a choral element added into the hard bop style of jazz. Max Roach never really played it safe. He always kept his stuff avant-garde and experimental, but this is really the only album of his that I think stuck the landing. The choral elements don't overpower the impressive instrumentation, and it makes it feel epic and grand. While albums like We Insist, Max Roach's Freedom Suite, and a lot of his other stuff kinda turn me off, this one gets my undivided attention and is a lot more technically impressive in my mind, and the drumming work is a lot better in my opinion. Similarly to Max Roach, Charles Mingus never played it safe either. He never went by the books and changed his sound up all the time, with Tijuana Moods using some Latin and flamenco elements, similar to Sketches of Spain by Miles Davis. But not really, this one is a lot more experimental. But also not really, because this is probably Mingus's most accessible album. It's pretty chill and soothing, and doesn't make your ears hurt like some other ones. And maybe that's why I don't love it as much, but I still do like it, and I don't know why I'm complaining. It's Charles Mingus and it's great. Sonny Rollins is one of my favorite saxophonists, but his best work came in the 50s with albums like Saxophone Colossus and Sunny Side Up. The Bridge is his only 60s album that's really worth listening to in my opinion. While a lot of saxophonists use their instrument to create a hectic and energetic environment, this dude makes it as peaceful as possible. It's super relaxing and always reminds me of the Monsters Inc. intro, which is amazing, so yeah, it's doing a good job. There's some unbelievable solos on here as well, where even if Rollins doesn't go crazy and experiment all that much, he still gets his instrument to sound so passionate and full of emotion. It just makes me so happy. Another Mingus album, Oh Yeah, is pretty great. This thing is just off the walls insanity, the total opposite of Tijuana Moods. There's insane vocals on here from what it sounds like psychotic drunk people, especially whoever is repeatedly screaming "Oh yeah" on Hog Calling Blues. This is one of the most experimental and avant-garde albums in his catalog, and if you like crazy shit like me, then you're gonna love it. It's often not as sonically impressive as something like a Black Satan the Sinner Lady, but I can't help but love the pure insanity of this album. I think it's much better than Tijuana Moods, and I would put it in the upper part of his catalog. The Quest by Mal Waldron and his group of Eric Dolphy and Booker Irvin is just great. It does like everything you want in a post-bop and modal jazz album, but it also gets experimental and abrasive at times too. It doesn't overdo anything, and whatever it tries it executes super well. You know, this is 3 year-end lists where I've only talked about jazz. Not only does that show the insane effect the Beatles are going to have on these videos, but it also just shows that jazz is still awesome. Like, I never get tired of talking about my favorite saxophonists and trumpeters. They just make stuff like this, and it's just awesome. I would be lying if I said I didn't want to talk about other genres though. It's just nothing reaches the level of the albums on here. Moonbeams by Bill Evans is fire. This was Bill Evans' peak as a pianist. His ability to create mellow and soothing atmospheres is like no other. He's the second best cool jazzer behind Miles, and Moonbeams is one of his best. It makes me feel emotion more than any other jazz pianist. He creates a sense of nostalgia and just pure happiness. It really puts me in an incredible mood that I just can't get enough of. He's not the most complex or creative pianist, but he sticks to his style that he improves on with pretty much every release, and this isn't his best album this year. John Coltrane's self-titled album is just another amazing Coltrane album. This was kind of a weird year for him, where this was pretty much his only major release. The only other one was Coltrane Plays the Blues, which wasn't good enough to make the list. Would probably be 11 though, but I also wanted some diversity because he's kind of been dominating these lists. In an era where John was pumping out classics, he kind of toned it down this year. I mean, he made 3 spots in my 61 list, but toning it down for him is still making a top 3 album of the year, I guess. This one is really just him showing off. It's before he starts getting more creative and spiritual. Like, he's just going crazy on here and never lets off the gas for a second. The first song is called Out of This World, and Coltrane is one of the few artists I can really say is out of this world, and he even gets better in years after this. Undercurrent is my favorite Bill Evans album. It always has been. I mean, it was the first one I heard. He was an instant love for me. I knew he was my favorite pianist as soon as I heard his cover of My Funny Valentine. It just puts me at ease. It may not be as technically great as Monk, but I just like it better personally. Really, all I said about Moonbeams can be said for this album. It's just a bit more complex and technical, which I think puts it above, as well as being the personal bias of it being my first time hearing Bill. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot to mention Jim Hall, who's an incredible jazz guitarist. I love jazz guitar. You would know if you watched my 60 and 61 videos where I praised Grant Green and Wes Montgomery. Hall isn't that good, but he's still awesome and makes the already soothing piano even more relaxing. I'd argue this is the most peaceful jazz album ever, and that's why I love it. Mosaic is my favorite album of 1962. It's my favorite Art Blakey album, barely beating out Moanin'. This might be the most energetic and intense jazz release, total opposite of Undercurrent. Blakey is ridiculously good at drumming, like insane, and it makes this thing so exhilarating to listen to. It also sets up Wayne Shorter, Freddie Hubbard, and Lee Morgan to kill each of their roles. The drumming sets up the stage for everything else to blow your mind, and it does just that with absolutely no restraint. The title track might just be the most intense jazz recording of all time, and is the song that really got me into jazz music. But each song is incredible. I keep saying it's intense and exhilarating. I feel like I'm failing to explain just how happy and fun this thing is. Like, that's the main appeal. It's just gonna leave you going holy shit and smiling the whole album, more than probably any other jazz album for me, and who wouldn't want to experience that? Don't miss out on Art Blakey, especially this album, because it's really one of the most impressive and enjoyable jazz albums of all time.